What is going on, guys? It is Blink here, back with another gameplay walkthrough. Hopefully it can help some people out. Also, the V-Bucks giveaway is still going on, so make sure to visit the link in the description to enter. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications as opposed to Amazon gift card going in the comments every time I upload. By turning on notifications, you'll have a way better chance of getting here first and redeeming that code. Anyways, guys, let's get to this guide. So, you guys wanted me to switch up my early game landings, which is what I ended up doing. Now, I was supposed to land at Salty Springs, but came back very late. So if you guys come back late, it's best to switch up your route, because late landing has a higher risk of getting eliminated much quicker. And I'm sure you guys want to try keeping your stats in check. Early game is the most important stage because of its high risks. Not having proper weapons or getting to a weapon late can result in death plenty of times, so minimize the risk by landing safe if you know you'll be late to your original destination. I ended up landing at a random house close to Salty Springs, which allows me to loot without any interruptions. I'll usually be able to gather the weapons I need and the materials I need with much less of a risk. If you notice yourself getting eliminated early game over and over, then I suggest you guys land at unnamed areas on the map. That way you'll be able to gather the loot and materials you need before heading into your first fight. Once you're feeling comfortable, you can try landing at named areas again and see how you do. I managed to get an AR, shotgun, and even a hunting rifle, so I'm pretty set for early game. I'm also able to gather close to 400 wood without any interruptions. Now, I do head to Salty Springs and I'm pretty well geared. Tried sniping the player on the house and I noticed the second player was right under me. Now, this player was building and building and building, just making very random builds without considering both opponent positionings, which was me and the player on the roof. When you build, you want to make sure you're building for that cover. He ignored the fact that I was right behind him and built a staircase in the opposite direction without at least adding a double staircase. Building is a great way to try making it easier to fight, but if you're not taking into account where your opponents are, then it's very useless. When you're building, you want to make sure you're building the right materials. Anyone can build fast, but you want to learn a build to block your opponent from having an angle on you. You might be slow at building, but as long as you're trying to build for that cover, then don't worry about the speed. The speed will come the more you build. So, the opponent on the roof ended up pushing, and I can hear him around me, and I'm just trying to locate him. You don't want to tunnel vision on the loot, especially if you know there's a player around. There wasn't much loot around me, but say there was plenty. Get in the habit of finding the second player first. Don't just tunnel vision, because now all your focus is on the loot, and not finding this player. Now, I did take a hard hit from this opponent, but luckily I did have a chug jug from the first player I eliminated. Make sure you're keeping a note of where meds can be, whether it's in a house or from a player you eliminated. Those meds will determine how your next fight will end. So, I head towards this mountain to get a better view of the whole area. Getting on high points is always a great way of spotting opponents around. Now, I actually heard a player behind me because the hop rocks make pretty loud sounds. So, I put a good chunk of damage onto this opponent as I was already holding the high ground. This is what's great about the high ground. I don't have to focus on building. All I have to do is try putting shots onto my opponent. Now, I tried going for a push onto this player as I did damage him. We ended up fighting for the high ground, and fortunately I got above him first and caught him with his building materials still out. Once you've got that high ground, pull your weapon and find your opponent. He will most likely have his building materials out as he's still focused on trying to recover for that high ground. That's when you take shots, because pulling out his weapon will take some time, or he'll attempt to build cover. In that process, you'll either put some damage onto him or maybe not, but it is the best time to pull out your weapon to try taking shots. So, I head towards Dusty Divot to see if I can spot anyone else, and I actually take a shot from a player behind me. Surprisingly, I never saw him the first time I looked, so I was in a pretty bad situation. I took a mini before he got too close. He played it very aggressive, which was smart on his part. I go for that high ground build up to see if I can get more time to heal. This player ends up building above me, and when players are super aggressive, you'll have to stop building and try putting out some shots. You're currently in a defensive state, and he's in a super aggressive state. By putting a few shots into him, he'll play it a little more careful. This will give you time to heal, as he's now got to heal too. He ended up tunnel visioning super hard on a player in the distance. Absolutely never noticed me building before I was even able to spot him. He made the mistake of dropping down, which resulted in me being above him. And he never even noticed me building right after healing. He should have heard it pretty easily and placed a roof over him to avoid taking damage. Now, I never knew where the second player was until he started to build up. I had vision on his stairs and took shots to try dropping him down. Anytime you have an angle on the stairs without needing to shoot the wall in front of it, then do it. You'll have a much easier time collapsing your opponent's structure. So, wasn't much of a crazy fight, but I got a legendary bolty, which is my favorite weapon to have. Great little gift to receive. I healed up, and not too far, two more players ended up fighting. The first player was an easier kill as he was just standing still. He forgot there was more than one opponent on the map. Never play like you're fighting the last player in the game, unless you actually are. If you're gonna stand still for more than a few seconds, then at least unscope and change your positioning and try again. Anytime I notice myself scoping in for too long, I'll either make sure to slightly walk in random directions, that way I'm at least a little mobile. I'll then stop once my opponent peeks out, or I'll unscope and change my positioning. Now, a minute later, I get shot at by another opponent. He tried building up, and the moment he added those double walls on his ramps, I stopped shooting and proceeded to build for that high ground. Because shooting through 2 stairs and 2 walls would not be worth sacrificing the high ground. He never ended up building towards me, and I think he was trying to mini up since I did hit him with a bullet. I ended up pressuring him as he was somewhere underneath. What he ended up doing was putting himself in a pretty bad position sitting under a small set of materials. He's not really able to run or jump, which wasn't smart of him to even sit there in the first place. Now, I get into the circle and check my back as I do see a set of stairs on the mountain. So I wasn't sure if there was a player on top as I did run around the mountain. I'm just making sure I'm aware before moving forward. This is one way of preventing those pinching situations, eliminating everyone behind you first before moving on. That way you don't get shot in the back as you're fighting. I did end up finding an opponent super close to me. Had I kept running, he might have been able to shoot me in the back during this next fight I was in. So make sure you guys are really checking your back as the storm's coming in. So I built towards this mountain, making sure to add a trap behind me. That way I don't get pushed from behind. Now, some people might be wondering if you should just build up and jump off to the grass or just keep building up. Well, if there's not already a big material mess, then I suggest you build yourself a little higher than the mountain. That way you won't be on even ground just in case there's anyone sitting on it. I did get a little frustrated taking unnecessary damage from this opponent as he wasn't really challenging me. He just repeatedly jumped as he shot. I could have played it much safer getting this kill. Although thankfully he did have meds for me. Now I decided to build myself a fort and just wait it out and see if I can catch any players inside tilted. I also want to mention, like I always do, is to use the edit function to check your back. If someone ends up pushing the stairs behind me, I can easily edit my back and take shots before this player is able to react. Remember, he can't see what you're editing. All he sees is the same wall that's been there the whole time. So going for an edit snipe kill is a great way of eliminating someone very quickly. I do end up spotting someone at tilted, and what I want to do is make sure I can clear out anyone inside tilted before moving forward. I want to avoid getting shot in the back as I get farther from the storm, and there can potentially be a player or two inside tilted, especially if there are still 10 players around. A good chunk of them can be still hiding inside buildings. Now, I do say building in the middle of the safe zone is the best thing to do, except the middle was right under the hilltops. So your best bet is to build on top of the hill and wait to see where the next safe zone ends up. No one else ended up coming out of tilted, so I knew my backside is most likely clear. I pushed towards this player inside his fort, and he shot me down the closer I got. Now, I knew where both players were because as I fell, the second player shot a rocket towards us. So by just listening, I know where both players are and I can build the right materials when needed. The second player wouldn't stop spamming his rockets, so what you want to do is take that shot onto him to avoid him from potentially shooting you in the back. As I always say, anytime a pinch happens, try taking a quick shot at that second player. That way he needs to heal and interrupts less of your fight. So, I can hear the current opponent I'm fighting somewhere under me, and I do end up spotting him. I do put a few shots into him, and it just gives me a better reason of applying more pressure. Get the elimination and build right back up for that high ground just in case the last player ends up jump padding to me. You don't want to get caught off on the low ground after a fight, so get back to the high ground as soon as possible. Now, my opponent never ended up jump padding to me. He actually ended up holding the safe zone as he was still in it. So, I wasn't able to hit my sniper shots, and I needed to bait my opponent into shooting again. What I did was fake a build towards my opponent, and right when I built a few materials, I instantly scoped in for a potential snipe. What his next move will usually be is an attempt on shooting down my materials, which means he'll most likely stand still, pull out his AR, and spray my materials. This gives me an easier shot onto my opponent as he's not really moving. He took my bait and it got me the win. Well guys, that's it for this gameplay walkthrough. It was a little shorter than my usual ones, but hopefully I've helped some people out, and a like and a sub will be greatly appreciated as it does help me out a lot. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll see you on the next one.